I had a feeling with the song debut of Breakdown, the original form of this, that a music video was following closely behind. Apparently my suspicions were correct, as that's what we're looking at today. Maybe it's because I remember the amorphous release pattern, maybe some of you do too, or perhaps when you saw this music video debut, there was a feeling of like, we've been down this road before in regard to release pattern. Amorphous, for maybe those of you who this is a first introduction to Icon for Hire, it was their fourth album in their lineup, but the most recent release, other than this one that's going to be coming out in September, that came out like in early 2021. But when that album released, preceding its arrival were 5 singles, which were released, of course, first, but then in usually like a 1 to 3 week period, I think, there'd be a music video that followed each single closely behind. So the song would come out first, and the video would debut subsequently. The Reckoning's been a bit different in that both of the previous singles, Ready for Combat and Dismantled, have had a simultaneous debut between song and music video. So both have been a shared date for each piece. Breakdown was a bit different in that the track debuted. Of course, I covered it previously. It was still a very energetic track, even if perhaps I like to watch the video that corresponds with singles, typically. Even though, Icon for Hire songs themselves are great. The videos are always fun. But we now have a music video. Again, I figured this would be happening. And it's always a pleasure to, cover Icon for Hire. I've really loved doing so. They've been one of my favorite groups. I've talked about them again, namely from the last 2 singles, but I've been waiting for an opportunity to speak on them. They've been a favorite of mine. If you're not familiar with Icon for Hire, they've been very big, especially as like independent artists since they left their record label, but they were really big, when they started, especially among like popular rock circles. There were a lot of, I come from a Christian background, so that's how I became familiar with them, because they were associated with Tooth and Nail before, which is, I believe, registered as a Christian record label. I know Icon for Hire doesn't necessarily identify that way, but that's how I came across them. In fact, actually, how did I come across them at first? It wasn't through... Well, I remember back to when, it's kind of a bit of a bragging story, which is why I always bring it up. I'm like, I kind of revel in it, but I remember back to when, Scripted released, I'm old enough to remember when Icon for Hire, their Make a Move music video, which is really their first one, and I think to this day it's their highest viewed video, that was sitting at number 2 on the iTunes music video charts. It really hit a high roster. But then I think I first came across them because they were touring with Creation Northwest on the Fringe stage. I didn't get a chance to see them. I didn't go that year, but I would love to. Well, again, that was really early days, when they were fresh with Tooth and Nail. And since, of course, in the years since they've left, and they've made an absolute triumph of themselves in regard to their music talent. I've been very impressed with them ever since Scripted days. So way back, I was with them in the beginning, basically, but in all the years since, I've really come to respect their work. They're an incredibly talented band. Love listening to their stuff. And I love, covering music in general on this channel. For those of you who might be familiar with my work, or maybe this is the first introduction for you, I mention this pretty much in every music coverage piece I publish, but music for me is a very revered art form. As much as I like other forms of entertainment that I've covered on this channel, music for me is a first love, and I've really wanted to share my joy with talented artists and great expressions of art overall for a long while. I just wasn't covering music, in the early days, but I've made substantial progress since. And I'm very excited to take a look today at Icon for Hire and to bring back again that feeling I've always enjoyed, in regard to The Reckoning. I'm really looking forward to the album. 5th in their lineup ever since. I think every album thus far with the band they've delivered on. I'm sure The Reckoning will be no exception. The first 2 singles have been great. Dismantled especially, that one is my favorite. Breakdown was nice. Again, I've covered it previously, so I already shared my thoughts basically in the track overall. This is going to be more so looking at the music video. Of course, I'm going to pull up the lyrics as well for your convenience. Perhaps if you haven't heard the song before and you'd like to read along with the message of the piece. But I still think, again, I'm predisposed to loving Dismantle because that song was just so strong. I loved it. But let's see the video form of Breakdown. I mean, it should be fun. All Icon for Hire music videos pretty much are across the board. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cue this up. I think we're ready. Okay. Feels like we're unifying the vision, because we didn't have a music video for Breakdown, but now okay, everything feels normal again. It's a good introduction, by the way, to The Reckoning. This is the track, I think it's number 2 on the album. Ready for Combat follows it.
I'm always one step away from the railing. I try to hold my
She's got the braid chic, too. I was like, I wonder if that's going to pop in the music videos. It's on the album cover. The chains are a nice touch. And they go, all the way in the back. She's got... Always there's incredible fashions. I love Ariel. And they did pick the same location as the Dismantled video. It's a good set piece, by the way. The fire's a nice touch, too. This definitely fits like the rebel fighter vibe that's been present in the last couple tracks and their videos. Such a strong verse. It's a great energy all around. And the message too, while broad, is still, it is trademark from them. Self-healing, very empowering message. It's excellent. These softer sections of the song are just excellent. And then, of course, we have the crescendo rising up of where we're going to get more aggressive. The music video really is a good compliment. Really like performance-esque, too. I almost feel like I'm watching a stage performance from them. I'd love to see, like, if they're, well, I mean, it'd probably be expensive to make it, or to capture this environment within, like, one of their shows, but I'd love to see them try to mimic this, like, on stage. Again, it's a great location choice, but the fire is just so beautiful to watch. It's a good mesh. Good film quality on the music video, especially that ending. Favorite hair, well, we'll get to that. I'll mention it later. The ending here was kind of interesting, and that is a really good compliment. Again, the breakdown is such a solid introduction, I think, to the overall album, because this is the first track that, you know, cues up what your overall impression is. And again, the previous singles have been great, Dismantled again being my favorite, but this is a track that sets the mood. And then from there, you know, obviously having listened to those other singles, it just continues to have that momentum. Strong album, again, very strong video. The ending's kind of curious on that one. I mean, there's kind of a general storyline here. It's more, well, less so. It just kind of follows in the feel of the other past videos. Like, Ready for Combat had the wrestling dynamic, and then Dismantled had everybody on motorcycles. Kind of, again, they had a bit of a rebellious nature to it. There's a bit like fighter vibe that I sense in these tracks, just even beyond the messages themselves into the energy of the pieces. Here, it feels like, you know, kind of like we're amassing the, I guess, the Icon Army Rebel group. One's even got a tattoo. That's kind of cool. Just flashing through. Where can I get one of those? The ending's kind of interesting. Bit make a move. You know, come to think of it, everybody gathered together. Standing here with the police officer. It's basically like a remade version. Maybe we're saying we're stronger now. I don't know. I'm trying to think of maybe the poetry of what they were going for in that image. There is like a general storyline. The ending is interesting though. Is that a rainbow flag right there? I'm trying to see. Forgive me if it's not. I think it is. I've got a touchscreen computer. I've talked about this. My brightness on here. The last PC broke, but it had much better brightness. As much as I like my computer, it's a great it works efficiently, but man, I hate the brightness on those things. I can't make out detail completely. It's still like kind of dark. I think in this case, that is what I saw. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 5 colors there. It's kind of interesting to consider. I won't harp on this too long. I guess maybe only enough to quell possible future presumptions. It's certainly no secret, as I stated in this video earlier on, that I'm a Christian. And that's a fact of character that I haven't really left undisclosed, really, in any of my creative ventures, whether it be on this channel, maybe some of my ever work. So perhaps here, with absolutely no personal offense intended, some of my retained convictions might render me the one in the room of a more contrarian mind. But I guess if you consider the song and its message, like I said, a breakdown is written. There are some vibes to it from other work that Icon for Hire has done that it feels familiar in essence and in energy, and even with the meaning of the interpretation of a song, or at least where you could take it. It feels similar to other songs, but it has a broad written appeal. I guess I could see like a possible connecting the dots here, depending again on specific listener interpretation. Although, it's interesting though in the context of this video, because I think again, breakdown being written broadly, and even the video itself, like again, there's a general storyline of like, I'm assuming this is meant to be like a reference to the Icon Army gathering their forces together, maybe for the new album release. But anyway, it's still kind of broad. Like it's not necessarily delving into individual character studies, more than it is like kind of the group as a whole. It's a curious element to analyze. I mean, completely independent and outstanding of personal convictions in this case. I'm looking at the video in context again to that broad nature to it in writing and in interpretation of the generalized story. I don't know if that was the best fit. I mean, it's not really, I would say, a unified marriage here in tone between reference and the general video, and that the song is written from a broader lens and how it can be interpreted multiple different ways, again, depending on individual circumstance. And the video kind of follows up a very generalized story that is sort of like a reference to the past of like Icon for Hire, but I don't know if it's the best fit. Not sure. I mean, the song itself, again, is not written. I did make connections when I covered Breakdown first with some of the past work, for example, like Hollow. That song, I mean, kind of again with that the mental health journey, or just overall health. That's been something Icon for Hire has talked about, frequently in their work. And then there were shades of that in here too, like the "Get So High Off the Lows Till I Let Go." I mean, I love that line. The song itself is great. I'm just curious, with that end scene in the video. I don't know. I'm not sure that one element best fits. I don't know. I wasn't in the production staging, so perhaps maybe to think of like the overall narrative, like maybe I would have made some revisions. But either way, I guess if you again. With the song's writing, you could connect the dots, but I don't know if it fits best into the generalized story of the video. The video itself, though, I would say, again, the story is kind of interesting, but it's more, for me, at least like a performance piece. If you forgive me, my editor's brain is working in this case, because I'm looking at the video going, there are so many photogenic moments here that work for excellent thumbnails. I wonder if part of the intention of this video, which, by the way, again, I think the filming quality is great. It's cool, by the way, to see a band like Icon for Hire that has gone independent succeed so wildly, and I think that is in large part because of their devoted fan base, of which, I've been for many years as well. Although, you cut costs where you can, with all due respect, because this location choice, I love it. It's great for a music video, and I'm sure it's probably a little more convenient. I mean, they filmed 2 music videos here with Dismantled and this, so I'm like, okay, maybe it was like filmed, back-to-back in the same day. I don't know exactly, but it's a good location. I mean, I don't know if I'd use it again necessarily, because maybe you feel like, okay, maybe we need to go to a different warehouse, but it's a fabulous choice. I really like the environment. It's, I think, one of my favorite setups that they've had in some of their more statically positioned music videos. But again, like I said, going through this, there are so many worthy moments here of like good thumbnail shots. I could see possible like band posters, like printable ones that fans could take to the shows and get autographs for. I mean, there's so many photo-worthy moments. In part, I think the braids really suit Ariel. The headbanging nature to the track, it's such a good choice. I find, Ariel is a great fashionista, in my opinion. She's certainly got a lot of creativity, not just in music, but in her own fashion sense. But it's funny for me. I'm like, I guess thinking to the past singles, which hairstyle is my favorite? Because all of them have had very unique. Even with Amorphous, it was the same. The long hair are dismantled. That's familiar for Ariel. All the looks look fine. Ready for Combat. Didn't she have like a ponytail, pigtail type setup? I forget. I really like the braids here, though. This is great for the like the headbanging scenes. It really brings a lot of energy and just even the movement. But some of these shots specifically of her in front of the fire, again, poster worthy. I'm wondering if that was partly the intention. The film quality to the video is excellent. It's familiar for Icon for Hire. It's got the same presentation quality as Dismantled. I loved that video. This one's, I think, overall, I mean, again, maybe I expressed some of my questions of it, but very entertaining music video, as always to be expected of Icon for Hire. Great energy, serves as a wonderful complement to Breakdown. Even though I will also say, as good as the staging is, I've never acknowledged this before because I didn't think I noticed it, but their logo, which is cool, I like it. It's very Fireflight, though. It's very easy for me to get the two mixed up. And I like Fireflight, too. They're a very popular Christian group if you don't know. So, I don't know. I'm like, well, which one's which? Because they're basically almost the same design. They're both circles, which is why, again, I think it's so confusing. Lines are different in terms of, like, the arrow shape, but they're almost the same. So, you look at both groups and you're like, well, it's going to be pretty easy, I guess, for me to mix up the logos going forward if that's what you choose to use more often. But it's still crafty. I kind of like the general logo. Again, it's just something I noticed. Generally, though, again, good music video, pretty enjoyable. Usually, as always, when it comes to Icon for Hire, again, I think that it really follows in their vein of what I expect from music videos from them. What are your guys' thoughts, though, of Breakdown? I mean, again, I didn't delve as much into the track on this case. Well, I kind of did in some points, but you can reference my previous video because, again, I covered that separately. This is more directed at the music video, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are down below, maybe on the overall video. If this is a first-time experience for you watching Icon for Hire, what'd you think? Again, I've loved them since the scripted days, so all the singles thus far I've loved. Dismantled, again, still my favorite. Just the energy on that piece, which the energy all around on all three has been pretty consistent, but I think the message, too, on that one is just solid. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below from whatever angle you come from in regard to Icon for Hire, whether it's from a new perspective or you're very familiar with the group. I'd love to hear your feedback, but going forward, I don't know if there will be, we got another month to go to the album releases, and we'll have to see if there's any more singles. If so, I will cover them, as I've been doing consistently for the first couple preceding singles for The Reckoning. And maybe going forward, I'm kind of debating, because I really like Icon for Hire, and I'd love to be able to cover the remainder of the album and give you my first impression. I'm debating. I don't know this for sure, but I might cover the album in its entirety when it releases. I'm kind of juggling around what I think, or perhaps I'll cover it on my associated channel, which I've also been making mention of in regard to my music coverage. For those of you who are interested in maybe taking more time with me in regard to music coverage and going deeper, I'm going to be launching a channel as of January 1st, 2023. That's my goal. I'm starting production on it really soon. It's called Symphonies and Small Talk. These two channels are interlinked in that this channel is focused on first impression reactions in terms of new music from, of course, many different types of groups. But Symphonies and Small Talk is going to allow me to analyze music from a much deeper level in terms of music that I'm very familiar with, or music that I've listened to that's really left. Because again, I love talking about music. It's one of my favorite art forms overall. Just the power of music and what it does for people, including myself. I'd love to be able to share my joy in regard to certain tunes that I've heard and certain artists that have left an impact and impression on me, like Icon for Hire, at a much deeper level in regard to work that I'm familiar with, and perhaps to share it with someone who perhaps has never heard, a band before, or a specific band before. Of course, we've all listened to music, in different capacities, or, perhaps one of their singles, just in one of their music videos. I'd love to share those experiences with you for tracks I feel are real highlights on their record. And Icon for Hire, I can tell you, just judging by the number of tracks that they've released thus far, like whether it be singles or full albums, there's a lot of tracks that make an appearance on that channel from time to time. But if you would like to take that longer journey with me, again, it's a bit of a wait in regard to the channel releasing, but keep your eyes peeled for January. I'm trying my best to get that released on time. But Symphonies and Small Talk will debut then, and Icon for Hire will be making a couple rounds there. Maybe, again, The Reckoning, the rest of the main tracks, I might listen to them first on my own, or I might listen to them with you guys first. I don't know. If so, I'll feature those videos on this channel. But we'll have to see, in the future. But again, I felt that The Reckoning thus far, I'm really hyped for it. It's going to be a solid album all around. And the music videos, again, as per usual, what a music video should be doing, really hyping up the album. It's a good track, and the video, I think, was generally a good compliment. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.